Hi, my name's Jordyn Armstrong, and I want to go to Songsmith. It's hard for me to kind of answer the question of why I want to go to Songsmith without going into a little bit of my story. So I grew up with this amazing family that knew the Lord, loved the Lord, was serving the Lord, and really had like this storybook childhood. But running tandem to that, I was suffering abuse that nobody knew about, and it was consistent. It was for a sustained amount of time, and I couldn't reconcile how I was feeling and just the guilt and the shame. I didn't have any way of verbalizing that, and I think I did what all of us do when we are faced with shame, is I just hid. The way I dealt with it as a little girl was I just put on like the good girl mask and just sort of soldiered on, and kind of the people pleaser. Remember like laying in bed as a little girl and just be feeling like physically sick inside. But waking up in the morning and knowing like I don't want to inflict this on my family, and I need to show up and smile and be the person that like everybody wants me to be. There came a point where it all just came down, and I wasn't able to function anymore. I had wrestled with so much shame for so long by myself that by the time I got to like my late teens, I was like basically incapacitated. I was emotionally sick, I was physically sick, I was just spiritually just like very sick. But I knew that I had hope, and I knew I didn't want to give up, and I knew that the enemy was like prowling around and tried to just eat me up when I was a little girl. And I just thank the Lord that he instilled a fight in me. He opened the door. And I heard him say like, be still. I'm going to fight for you. And I knew I just had to show up and be present. And that's what he did. I just remember like one day for the first time, like standing there and realizing like, I feel peace in my heart and in my body for the first time that I can remember. And what was unlocked in that time is I just couldn't help but worship. And I had always sang, but I never felt called to worship. I think because I was so disconnected from authentically who I really was. Like I just always felt like a phony, and it's really hard to be a phony in worship. But after I came through this process, it was like worship was like pouring out of me. You know, not to be a total nerd, but Bethel was a big part of my journey, because I remember standing in my kitchen one day, and my sister-in-law, who's an amazingly gifted worship leader, she called me and she said, I'm going to send you a video and you have to watch it. And I was like, okay. So I pulled up this video, and it was Stephanie, and she was singing like this prophetic song, and I had just never seen anything like that. It wasn't like my exposure to worship was like early 90s, like our God is an awesome God, like sing the harmony. But I watched her, and she was doing more than singing harmony. She was like this prophetess, like up there on stage, and I was standing there in my kitchen, and the moment I saw it, something woke up in me, and I walked over to my couch and I said for the first time, like, Lord, if you want me to do worship, if you want me to join the worship team, like I will. As scared as I am, as unqualified as I feel, like if you want me to do it, I will do it. And I sat on my couch, and my son had just been born, and I went to feed him. I pulled up my phone, just kind of scrolling through social media, and the first thing that came across my phone was my local church worship auditions, and I was like, okay, you got me. So I called up my worship pastor, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. And I was terrified, and I went in though, and I started doing worship a couple weeks after that. I started just kind of chipping away at these songs and chipping away at the piano and just trying to push myself further and further and further. And I just realized that I just had like these songs of freedom in my heart that I was getting more and more and more passionate about. And so that's what I want to sing about. I want to sing songs of freedom, and I want to tell his story and my story. And the reason why I want to go to Songsmith is I want to do that as skillfully as possible, because I feel like that's my act of worship. So I also wanted to just thank you guys, thank Bethel. Like, you've been such a pivotal part of my heart awakening to worship and my heart awakening to songwriting. And there's not a person that's close to me that you guys haven't touched. And I'm just incredibly grateful. And if I get the opportunity to come to Songsmith, I would have to put my big girl britches on for sure, but I would just do it with as much joy and gratitude as I could possibly muster. So thank you guys for what you do.